Hey guys, TC Babe here with TC Gaming. Wanted to bring you another video in our Getting Started series. Out on my page, I had a community thing that I put up there. If you guys get an opportunity and you want to vote on topics and things like that, I think I'm going to start putting that up there to see the direction where you guys want to go with these Getting Starteds. But one of the questions that popped up in there, or one of the comments rather, I'd asked what people wanted to work on next, and some of it was about combat, and then somebody made a comment about archery. So I thought the quickest way for me to show you some of this would actually be just to grab an asset that already has a pretty detailed setup for archery and combat in here. And then what we'll do is we'll take some of this, I'll show you how to migrate things like this over into other projects and stuff like that and wire it up and use animations you have for other characters in place of the ones that are in here, etc., etc., etc. And we'll try and do all that stuff as we go down, through these tutorials. The other thing I want to mention real quick is I have a bunch of other things that I have to get out for other things that I was covering a while back that are not part of the Getting Started series. So you might see a couple videos pop up in between this one and the next one that are about different topics. I'm going to try and set my playlist up a little bit better and get things organized for you so you can follow each thing in the category that it belongs in. But this asset on the marketplace is called Arcade Fantasy Archer. I think this is about $15 or something like that to buy and download. It's got a pretty decent showcase video for it. You can go down through here and see all the different things that are included. And what I did is basically I bought this, you download it, you create a project with it. And then inside of that project, you're going to see your content here for the Arcade Fantasy Archer, and it starts up with this map. So I'm going to walk you through a little bit about how this is set up and structured and give you an idea of what's going on with being able to play animation montages, which was one of the topics I was going to cover in this video anyway, the video for this slot. But I'm just going to try and combine a few of these so that they're all together. But basically, let's get started into it here. So if you go into this Arcade Fantasy Archer pack, and I'm just hitting Alt play to get started here, F11 to maximize my window. What you'll see over on the left-hand side there is I have a couple of comments popping up, and these are things I'm going to show you how to put in here. But basically, the Fantasy Archer with the W, A, S, and D keys can run around. You can use your mouse wheel to look around or whatever, and if you left-click, he goes and he fires an attack. So I'll do it over here where you can see that he's actually firing at the thing. Left click fires the attack, and he's got a couple of different combo moves that he does. So I think there's 4 different basic ones. And so what I did on the left hand side there is I put some troubleshooting code in there, or error trapping code, to show you where things are happening in this animation setup. So in these typical things here in these setups, you'll have a couple of different ways that these are wired up. Normally what I do, again, I go over here and I try and find out where my character's at. Now this one doesn't have anything listed as the default pawn class. So there's a couple different ways you can find it. I'll give you a tip here. If you go to content and you go into your filters, remember you can pull all these different things up. And if you just go to blueprint classes, well, right away you'll see there's your blueprint class. And also if you're looking for things like your skeletons, you can go to animation skeleton. That'll pull up all the skeletons. Then you can toggle these off and on to get to whatever you want to. Now, the other thing is we have an animation blueprint that's under that class, so I don't really need the skeleton, so I'll go back here to animation. I'm going to uncheck the skeleton. I'll go back to here again, animation, and we'll go and get the animation blueprint, which is right there. And then we'll talk a little bit through these. Now, the character blueprint for the Fantasy Archer blueprint right here is where I would start. And in these, you'll typically have, let me close these windows out here. You'll typically have an event graph and a viewport. And in this event graph section, 90% of this is normal. This is your typical gamepad input and your movement and all that kind of stuff. You'll find these in most characters. Down here, they have a section for basic attack functions that they've attached. And in this basic attack function, what you see is whenever you hit the left mouse button, we go out to a branch, we find out if there's a montage already playing. If that comes back as false, then we can go ahead and go into our next montage. And this has an attack number variable that's put in down here as, oh, grab that. This attack number variable is just an integer that's storing the current attack. So if you come in here, your 0th attack comes over and sets your attack number to 1 and then plays whatever montage you have selected here. The next time you click your left mouse button, it comes over and it increments this to 1. This will, or actually you incremented it to 1 here, so it comes over on the 1, comes over here and sets your attack number to 2, plays the second montage. It comes back through the loop. Next time you hit the left mouse button, goes to 2 because you set it to 2 here. 2 comes down this path and sets it to 3. 3 plays the third attack montage. When you set that to 3 and come back through with the left mouse button, that goes down here and plays the fourth montage, but it sets your attack number back to 0 so that when you hit the button again, you come back through this first integer switch into the first montage and start with 1 again. So this basically goes 0, 1, 2, 3, 0, 1, 2, 3, 0, 1, 2, 3 as you left mouse click through. And those 4 montages that you can assign are there. Now inside of this this blueprint here, this event graph and blueprint, there's going to be a section in here where you can go down and you can find under my blueprint down here, you have these different event graphs. And there's one in here for the Fantasy Archer. So if you double click on this one, actually just pull up the Fantasy Archer blueprint section in here. These are different nodes within the blueprint. So what this does here, there's a couple of different things you can change as materials, but we're interested over here in these attack events. So the archer hits the left mouse button. And I want to point something else out real quick I skipped over. In here, what you'll notice is this left mouse button condition comes over and there's no montage assigned here. So basically nothing's happening here. This is just a framework that they left behind if you want to set some additional things up just so you see how it works. But if you go into the Fantasy Archer section here, when the left mouse button gets clicked, we go over and do that same thing. We check to see if there's a montage currently playing. If it's not, then we go ahead and move into the weapon. So if the weapon is a bow, it goes into the bow attacks. If it's an axe, it goes into an axe attacks. And the weapon is set with another switch over here. There's a variable that when you hit a key, it toggles whatever weapon you're currently on, which I think was up here in the event graph also. Somewhere there was toggle weapon or something. Well, it's going to be in here somewhere. We'll find it in a minute when we're running through this. But in this Fantasy Archer blueprint, again, we go into bow attacks and axe attacks. And you can see that there's really, doesn't look like there's anything here, but you see it also says collapse graph. And if you hover over it, you can see that there's code in there. So we double left click on the bow attack section, and everything we just saw out front is here now. You come into an input. This print string wouldn't normally be here. You go from an input to the switch on in. 0 plays this first one, sets it to 1. Then it comes through 1, sets it to 2, just like I talked about in the first place. Now, these actually have montages in them. And what a montage is it's basically an animation file inside of a container that allows you to do additional programmatic functionality or the blending of multiple animations into like combo attacks and things like that. So this anim montage, to find that, again, we hit the little magnifying glass. We browse out to that window. I'm going to minimize this. And we'll see that we have an attack bow 1 montage here. If I double left click that, it takes me into the animation blueprint. I'm just going to pause this right here so we can talk a little bit about what's going on. Now this only has one animation, attack bow 1. And if we drag through the timeline, we can see kind of what that does. Well, he's holding an axe and a bow. It's just he's got all of his preview meshes turned on, which you can see over here. He's got a preview socket, some stuff over there. So it's just so that the person who's designing this can see where the timing goes for each thing. So just kind of ignore the fact that he's holding multiple weapons. But what it does is when you come down here, it's going to start a trigger that says start bow shoot. Okay, and then there's another trigger that comes out and it says spawn an arrow and end the bow shoot. And these happen kind of like right one after the other, boom. So you can see during the attack phase, he's pulling the bow back. Start bow shoot would be him drawing the weapon. See how his right hand is coming down? He's drawing the weapon. Now you don't see it doing it to here. This is a preview. I'll show you where that's happening in a second. So start bow shoot draws the arrow or the bow back. Over here, we let go of the bow and we spawn a projectile arrow using these commands. Now, where do these go? Well, these are in the animation blueprint for this character. So in here, you have these things called Anim Notifies. Anim Notify states are down here in the bottom of the event graph for this Fantasy Archer's Anim BP. And all this stuff, you can set this up manually, if you went through this process. It's pretty common to do this. There's other ways to do it, but this is a pretty common way. And what it does is, when it receives the Anim Notify to start the bow shoot, it goes out to the Fantasy Archer blueprint and fires the bow shot animation. Then it comes down and it goes to that end bow shoot, and it goes out again back to the Fantasy Archer character and goes to bow shot animation end. And then it goes out to spawn the arrow, and there's a function out there to spawn the arrow. So if you double left click on this, it's going to take you back to the Fantasy Archer in the Fantasy Archer blueprint, and we'll see that there's a bow event here for bow shot animation, plays the animation for the bow shot, and then that's basically done. And then the next part of the animation comes through and hits the spawn arrow, which again passes through the blueprint or the end bow shoot. That goes back over here, does the bow shoot end. And so in the bow shoot animations, we can pull these up as well. What these look like is animations for the actual weapon. So there's a bow shoot animation. Again, we'll pause this. And I'm holding down the Alt key to turn this sideways. And I'm going to grab this playhead and dial this back. So this is basically kind of like a 0-1 condition. You could also apply to these. There's other ways to do it. So at 0, you're not drawn. At 1, you are. But what they do in this one is the same thing. They play this animation as long as he's in that state in the anim. They play this first, boom, and then what they do is they go and the bow shot animation is basically uh, going back to this state. So one way takes it from not drawn to drawn. The other animation is basically the inverse of this, which takes it from drawn to released. And at the same time that this happens, our montage is also saying to spawn an arrow. And spawning the arrow, what that does, we go back here, that actually pulls this custom event in from our character blueprint again and spawns the projectile, the arrow projectile, and it says where do I need to spawn that? Well, it goes and it gets the character, the socket location from the mesh, and it goes and finds out that you're the mesh up here. The mesh is the character. It says go and get the character, find a socket called hand_R, find out what the actor's rotation is, and use that as a rotation for this transform, and then set the spawn transform, the rotation and the angle and everything, and the location for this is being derived by the character who's holding the bow and the direction that they're facing. And it goes and it pulls that in there and then spawns the projectile. Now, excuse me, in the projectile itself, you can go and hit this one, and you go down to the projectile, and this shows you in here that you have, drag this out a little bit, you have a thing called a projectile movement component, and in here it sets some of the variables. And if you hover over this, it tells you a little bit about what it does. It says projectile movement updates the position of another component during its tick. So this is forcing it to move by sending pulses and variables to it and stuff like that. And this shows you the speed of it and the bounciness and all that kind of stuff. And you can set some variables in here to change these. And somebody could probably give you a better idea of the physics of a bow. But this seems to look pretty good by default the way that it's set up. Now, to figure all this out, what I did, the way that I troubleshoot things, I'm going to walk you through my process. I went into the Fantasy Archer first of all, and what I did was I said, okay, let's get out here to his main event graph, and I could see that there was a left mouse button in his basic attack function. Okay, so if I went in here and I held down and I said add breakpoint, because I know that I'm going to hit that left mouse button to fire something here. When I go out to the animation again, if I hit the left mouse button, it brings me in here because I've put a breakpoint on. And I've said basically stop here. Now what I can do is I can go into this step into, and I can hit F11, and it says, it looks at the branch. Is there a montage currently playing? That was false. It goes to the switch in, and then it would go do nothing over here. So I said, well, okay, that's kind of weird because I don't have anything happening. And it's because there's nothing there with the montage. So I stopped this, and I said, well, I wonder if there's some other type of an attack. So if I go in here again under Find Results, if you don't see that, you can hit Control F. Go in here, and I typed in left mouse. And if you hit Enter, you see there's actually two of them. There's an Event Graph left mouse button and a Fantasy Archer left mouse button. So I removed the breakpoint from here, and I got the left mouse button, and I double left click that. Now I see another attack event for the left mouse button here. And then I see, okay, well, from left mouse button here, it goes into bow attacks or axe attacks, and it does the same thing as out on the front one, so I can go down to the bow attack, and I can see where this is coming in here. And if I wanted to follow this now, I could go right-click on this as a toggle breakpoint, go out and hit play again, And when I hit the left mouse button, boom, now I'm into the bow attacks input for this. And I can go F11 and it shows me the switch on it. Now that's 0, so it comes across this path and it goes over here and plays this montage. When that happens, we shot an arrow. I'm going to go out and hit it again. Now it comes in. We see that the attack combo is 1, so it's going to come down to this path. And then that's going to go down here and play this montage. And we got a print string. And if we look out here, we'll see that there was another print string. If I hit left again, come over here now. We set that to 2, so it should come down this path and play this montage. And then it's going to come over here and, print string, go back out, and I'll do it again. And we come back in and we see that we go down, because this was 3, it goes down the third path. Now it sets it back to 0, plays this Animation Montage, goes out to that print string, and takes you back to the beginning of the loop. So if I hit this again, now I'm back into 0 and I'll come right across the top again. So again, I was telling you how that cycles through there. So that's how these kind of things flow. Now, I couldn't get my head wrapped around what's happening first. Is it going to the character blueprint, then calling the animation blueprint, then calling the anim notify, then calling the function over here? So what I do to troubleshoot these is I put in, sometimes you can't step through these and see what's happening during runtime. So what you do is you put these things in called print strings. And normally this, whoops, I double click that. Normally what would happen is this would have been here, and this print string would not have been in this equation here at all. Okay, so what you do is you drag off of this pin and you type in print string, or print and pull up string, and it'll automatically drop that in there for you. And then you can put your text in here that you want to have this thing tell you whenever it runs through there. And you can also hit this little down arrow and it'll give you an opportunity to change the text color and the duration and all that kind of stuff. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to wire mine back up, double left clicking and then, moving these out. I'll just wire mine back in here. Print strings always go through an execution pin, and they can take other input parameters as well. So if you wanted to find out like what attack combo is being done, you could take this attack combo. You could come off of this and take that to the in string also, and you'll see that'll take that integer and put it on the string. That would just tell me if I'm in 0, 1, 2, whatever. That's the variable we're setting here. So if you want to troubleshoot stuff, these print strings are great. So what I did is I said, okay, coming into the print string here, I put a statement in that says press the attack button. So we know that we hit the attack button. Over here, after the montage got done playing, I just put a print string out that says play montage 0. Okay, play montage 0 shows me there. If I hit it again, it comes out and says play montage 1, play montage 2, play montage 3. Now I'm calling them 0, 1, 2, and 3 because they're actually 0, 1, 2, and 3 over here, not that they're 1, 2, 3, and 4. I usually try and index things based on the array. Arrays start at 0. Typically, you can start an array differently, but that's something that you'd have to do manually. But anyway, I put a print string in here to tell me what montage I was playing. And then I did the same thing. I go over to the animation blueprint for this character. Gotta go back over. You always, whenever you're using these filters, they filter from whatever folder you're in. So he's over here, but if I can't find something, I get this filter turned on, just go up to the top level content folder, and it'll drill down through all the subfolders to find it. So now I can go Fantasy, Archery, and BP. And again, I know that in the notifications for the montage that there are calls to these. So I came in here and I put off the back end of the bow shot animation, I put a thing in that says bow shot started, because that's what is actually getting called here, start bow shoot. So shot bow started, and I put an ABP at the end of this to tell me that I'm in the animation blueprint, ABP. I did the same thing here for shot bow ended in the animation blueprint, and spawn arrow ended in the animation blueprint. And then I know that if I double left click on one of these, it takes me into the character blueprint again. So again, I put a print string here. Now I said shoot bow start, for example, was in the character blueprint. So CBP, shoot bow start. This should actually say shoot bow end. Shoot bow end. Yep, shoot bow start was over here. Shoot bow end here in the character blueprint. I had copied and pasted these in there. And then I also put one that says spawn projectile for the character blueprint. But these CBPs and ABPs will tell me what phase of this I'm in. This way, when I go to look at this, I can see the sequence of events. So I hit play, I go out here, and I'm going to come back to this stop and then just remove this breakpoint. We'll go back out and hit play again. This time it won't stop there, but we'll just be able to see our output on the front end. So expand this out so it's a little easier to say. When I hit the left mouse button, just let that go. And I have a timer on here too. So it says I pressed the attack button. I played montage 0. Start bow shot. Shoot bow start was in the character blueprint. And then it went to, now I'm on montage 1. So it goes from the character blueprint to the animation blueprint, back to the character blueprint for the end of that, then to the animation, then the spawn of projectile for the character and in the animation. And now that's too fast for you to read all that, which you can do. I'm going to hit exit. I'm going to go F11 to minimize my screen again. We can go into each of these things here and we can put a little bit more time on them. So I'll go here and I'll say I want that to be on screen for 20 seconds and 20 seconds for these durations and 20 seconds for these durations here. Now that's in the Anim BP. Then I would go into my Fantasy Archer BP and I'm going to do the same thing, make these 20 just because I'm trying to explain them to you a little bit better. And come down here and do the same thing. And every one of these, we can just go make these 20. These print strings are great for troubleshooting something. If you're not familiar with how it works, you can leave yourself little pointers to tell you what execution block you're in. So I highly recommend getting into habit of doing this. And then we'll go here. And I'm pretty sure that these, like it says, development only. So when you compiled your game and ran it, you wouldn't see any of these things. This is only for when you're in the developer mode here. Okay, so if I go back to play now, oh, I'm sorry, hold on. There's one more section in here, so let's go back out to the Fantasy Archer, and you've got these here. So also we're going to make 20. And, you know, again, hopefully this video helps. I watch a lot of videos where people will do this for you from the ground up and show you how to build this whole thing. I think that this explaining it with something that already exists is a little bit easier for me, and hopefully it's more clearly defined for you guys. Again, for 14 bucks, 15 bucks, I would recommend just going and buying the asset off the marketplace and then kind of do this same exact thing I'm doing, running through here. If you really want to know how blueprint or how to do an archery type thing in a blueprint, this is a pretty good example project. And I'm not endorsing that person. I don't make any money for telling you to buy their assets or whatever, but you get a lot of good stuff in here for 15 bucks. I mean, look, you get 7 different attacks, external variables for left button, mouse button here. There's all the different attack combos that you have. There's ones with the axes. There's ones with the archery. You get these 17 different patterns for your character. And he put these little switch plates on here, so if you walk up to one, you say, okay, I want to maybe look like that. You just walk up and step on the switch plate. So you could actually run through here and change your outfits based on running over top of those things. All kinds of different looks for your character. And then you also have, if you hit the 1 key, I'm hitting the 1 key on my keyboard, 1 key cycles through all the patterns. Okay, the 2 key switches the weapons, so he's also got an axe set up in here. And then the 3 key takes his hood off and on. Okay. So it's a pretty cool character, you know, for that price. And then he also has a thing over here that just kind of rotates the guy around and cycles through all the different patterns so you can kind of see what he looks like with an axe or his different thing with the bow. Shows you axe bow outfit. It's a nice little layout. So then I've got those other markers in there for the print strings. We'll do it again. I hit left mouse button once, and I got press the attack button, play montage 1, start, shoot bow start, shoot bow start in the animation blueprint, shoot bow ended in the character blueprint, and then shoot bow ended in the animation blueprint, spawn the projectile in the character, and then spawn the arrow in the animation. And the reason it's going through that cycle is because play montage 1 calls the montage in the animation blueprint. The animation blueprint has a marker in it. Let's go back to this montage. The bow attack montage 1 has the marker in it. So I called this from the character. The character said, go play attack bow 1. Attack bow 1 said, go and place start bow shot. Tell the animation blueprint that that just happened. So it does that. That thing calls the character blueprint again and says, go do the next piece. Then it hits these things and they overlap. So that's why I put the timer in there to find out what's happening when, you know. And hopefully this helps explain that. Now, the other piece of all this, which I'm not going to do it in this video because I want to actually set up a couple different things first, and I just loaded this in here to show you this. But kind of get your head wrapped around what's going on in here. You can always pause the video and take a look at it and see what's going on. But if I go back in here to the character blueprint, and we go out here to that, I kind of put this on screen for you. Give you a second to see what's going on here with the bow attack again. Just kind of set it still so you could, if you were pausing these videos, looking at these, give you a nice spot to pause it. Hopefully you can see that well enough. And really the meat and potatoes of it's here, playing montage 1, 2, 3, and 4 and setting the combos on there. So I'm going to leave that sit like that for a second so you can kind of see the bow attack. Axe attack's exactly the same way, it just plays axe montages. I'll go back out here because you should have been able to pause that there pretty good. I'll go back out to the event graph and I'll show you the same thing here of where we called that should be a call for the attack. Which that's the left mouse button one there. Fantasy Archer blueprint should have a left mouse button here. So this is the other one I wanted to show you. So this tells you whether you're going into the bow attack or the axe attack. And both of these are just getting triggered because you hit the left mouse button. And then from the bow attacks, you just saw that on the screen there. And then the other part of this that toggles back into here is your bow events. And these bow events are being called from your animation montages, which are getting called here. Set these various states. So hopefully you can see that. Go into the animation for the bow attack. Again, this one does start bow shot, end bow shot, and spawn arrow together. The second montage, I don't know why there's two copies of that same thing. Attack bow 1 montage. There's the one without the notifies in there. Attack bow 2. This is the second attack, so the same things. Start bow, spawn arrow, end bow. There's one of them in here that's a multi. So here's start bow, and really all you're doing is you're trying to line these up here with the when the sequence happens. Now, real quick, to put these in here, you can right click on here and hit add notify. And if they already have a notify in here, then you can add that notify in. This one has skeleton notifies, so hit add notify, skeleton notifies, and this is where you'll find them. So if you had your own animations you wanted to put in here and tie those in, this is where you would add them from. If they don't exist in here, then you can say new notify. You can create a new notification, call it whatever you want to, and it'll go and fire that in that animation blueprint. This animation blueprint's tied to, or this character has an animation blueprint, and those notifies trigger on that animation blueprint. But that's how you put them on there. New notify, or you can use the ones that are in there already. And then this other montage here has a multi-attack. So this one here has start bow shot, end bow shot, spawn arrow, end bow shot, spawn arrow. That's the one where he fires off a couple in a rapid fire succession. Okay. And then we'll look, the last part of that is in the animation blueprint for the character, which we've been in a couple times. And this is all just at the bottom of the event graph. And it looks a little something like that. Okay. Hopefully that's simplistic enough for you to get something out of it. Now there's some other stuff going on here where they're doing some animations with his axe hand and his left bow arm and stuff like that. And that's all getting pulled in from the animation graph over here. Out on the anim graph, he's got a thing in here where they're blending in his left and right bow arm because what they don't have a full different animation for that. It's just an animation where they change the state of his arm and kind of blend it in. So this is a whole different topic. But if you get this asset, you should be able to figure that out by reading through there, and probably would need it anyway because it's already done for you. But hopefully that helps answer some questions about what's going on in there. This is just another one of our getting started series. You know, some basic ideas of how to set up multi-trigger attacks. Now that same multi-trigger attack process I was going to cover in the Barbarian videos that we were using for the last one. And another place to grab some of that type of logic is actually from a Paragon character. So if you go to Paragon Greystone, for example, or Paragon Sparrow, she's the archer. Those characters use that same exact process of calling individual animation montages based on the input clicks of the mouse. And that's the first place I ever saw it was in the Paragon animation. So I was actually in my other video, I was going to pull the Paragon Greystone character in and show you how to set up some simple attack montages using that method that's in the same asset. And then when somebody asked for the archery and the bow thing, I figured this would be a good place to do that. Now, in the next video that I do in this series, what we'll talk about is how to actually deal damage with that projectile. And that's all going to, if you want to look any of that type of stuff up before I get my video out, my videos come out a little slow. What I recommend is if you go and look at, there's a couple guys that I really like to watch on YouTube who put out some great content, and one of them is Ryan Laley. Ryan Laley does some fantastic tutorials, and they're all covering this type of stuff, and they're very to the point. And another great resource is a YouTuber by the name of Dev Addict. And Dev Addict also has a lot of content, and he has a couple of things on, I don't know what they are. He has like a Dark Souls combat thing I subscribed to and bought. And they're very, very informative. They help you get started with a lot of stuff. Anything you're looking for, I just punch in UE4 and then whatever the topic is. So like UE4, damage from projectile or whatever would get you a starting video. And if you see those videos in there and they happen to be from Dev Addict or maybe a Ruben Ward, or Ruben Ward covers a lot more stuff in C++, or your Ryan Laley's, and there's a lot of other guys out there. There's quite a few that are way better at this stuff than I am. I'm just kind of giving you the introductory portion. But for the deep dive stuff, I would highly recommend going and watching some of their videos. That's where I learn my stuff from. A lot of times, if I have questions, I'll go and watch one of their videos because I know they're to the point and informative. So, again, hopefully you guys get something out of these, and I'm going to try and do them when I can, but I apologize that my schedule is just as hectic as everybody else's. I shoot pool Monday nights and Tuesday nights, and I DJ on Fridays and Saturdays, and I have a regular 40-hour job. Plus, I'm working on game dev. We have our own company that we're getting ready to launch here sometime this year. Working with, actually partnered up with MSOD Brushbeard, the guy who did the platformer kits I talked about in some videos way back when last year. We actually ended up forming a partnership and creating a company. So we're going to have a couple games coming out hopefully this year. And the first one will probably be at least in a demo format within the next couple of months, I think. We're on target to do that. So, if you need something, hit my Discord, come find me, track me down, throw a message in my Discord. Someone will try and answer it. Sometimes it's me. Sometimes I ask other people in there who might be able to help you that I know kind of what other people know. And I'm also in the ACF forums a lot, which is Asset Combat Framework, which is a lot of the stuff I've been working on these days for my games and for the games for the company. In some of our RPG type stuff, the micro RPG series, we're working on some of those. And I'm also going to show you real quick too, if I can get to my channel here. There's a guy here named Sir Kaizu that I put up on the front page. There's MSOD's page. If you look at Sir Kaizoku, I'm sorry, he'll kill me. Kaizoku is working on some of the stuff I'm using for one of my games, which is the Advanced Locomotion System version 4. He's actually integrated that with Ascent Combat Framework. Now, a lot of you probably don't have Ascent Combat Framework. I know some of you do. Here's Dev Addict over here. And there's Ryan Laley Games right there if you want to see their thing. Sir Kaizoku is working on the Advanced Locomotion System, the C++ replicated version, multiplayer, integrating that into Ascent Combat Framework, which is pretty much done with. And then he's also working on bringing some of that stuff into the Action RPG series that I had worked on in some previous videos. We're trying to get better animation and movement into that framework template because I think that'll help a lot of people out. And he's also working on some of his own stuff with some animation setups that make ALS version 4 a lot easier to work with. Instead of doing overlay states, he's actually going to have these things called locomotion groups or whatever, where you can go in and define how your character is going to respond based on different types of weapon classes and stuff that you might be holding. So it's some thought-provoking work. Go check his channel out. He has a Patreon. Right now he's at 50 subscribers. The guy just started doing this a couple weeks ago, and he definitely could use the support. Go check him out if you're interested in some of the stuff that he's working on and might be covering here coming up soon. Go take a look. I mean, I'll show you real quick. He's working on some pretty cool stuff here. Now, I don't know if these are public or not, but this is one of the most recent videos that he put out as far as his, well, I guess probably loud to you guys. Sorry, it's loud to me, and I don't know what my settings are on. But you can see here he's working on doing some stuff with automated jump and vault type stuff based on proximities to different things. He's really torn the ALS version 4 stuff apart and has put a lot of work into this. Now, again, this is for ACF, but he's making a version of it that you guys will be able to use for a third-person game or in something like the Action RPG kit. So, again, Sir Kaizoku, he has a Patreon somewhere. Actually, you can get to him from his Discord here, and then he's got a Patreon channel I thought he was putting on here. But anyway, go check him out. Thanks for watching, guys. I'm going to cut this video. And again, I'll be back soon with other videos and other series, and I'll try and continue this as I can. Good luck, and take care. Again, if you need me, catch me in my Discord. I'll put the link in the video description. Take care.